Everybody, 12 noon, about South Campus show time. It's cold out there, folks, but it is January in Minnesota. Here we've got our guest today, Father Stan Mater from St. Joseph Parish in Waconia. Welcome, Stan.
Thank you. Good to be here again.
Thank you. So, Stan, you know, had a number of our brothers from Deanery 10 on board, and it's your turn today, so thanks for coming. Been asking others of the cloth, how'd you get in our business here? It's always make it 30 seconds or less. Yeah, whatever.
Oh man. Okay, well, I grew up on a farm north and east of St. Bonnie, and you know, good family, church going, praying. We got Catholic education, and somewhere around my junior year in high school, the idea occurred to me about being a priest, and I didn't want to do it. It took me 15 years to decide to go to seminary, and eventually said yes.
Wow.
The big step was to go to seminary.
Yeah.
I did that at 32. I was ordained at 36.
But in that 15 years, you had quite a business career for yourself, didn't you?
Yeah. I got a degree in mathematics, and I was a system software programmer, system software specialist. Anyway, I worked with a big company then called Burroughs, now called Unisys, for about 6 years, and I kind of did a lot of beta testing in software, being a customer rep. In those days, computers were very big and very expensive, and if you got one, you probably got some guy from the company to sit there and just kind of do a little work for you and wait till the computer broke somehow. And then I would try to figure out from the software side whether there was a problem there. Then for 4 years, I had my own business doing similar work.
Wow. Mm-hmm. But the hound of heaven got you, and here you are. So, how long have you been ordained?
It'll be 30 years in May.
Wow, congrats. That's wonderful. St. Joe's, you've been there
About 3.5 years now.
coming in. It's kind of like I always say, it's like you coming home.
Somewhat, yeah. I mean, from where I grew up, I could see the steeple from the lawn, and now I own that house, and so I can still see the steeple.
There you go. And I wanted to ask about the family farms.
Yeah.
What's the situation on that?
Well, it was 80 acres and was primarily a dairy farm. You know, from about the time I was 6 or 8 on up, all we had were dairy cattle, and everything we raised was fed into them. We have sold the farm. I bought one lot from the developer. The family restored the pasture land, which had been then tiled and farmed for about 40 years. We restored it to its natural wetlands. And so that there's it's about 26 acres of wetlands, and then a buffer area making 41 acres, which allowed the lots around it to be smaller than would normally be required in the city of Minnetrista. And so more affordable for people to build there, and they could have 11 lots instead of just 7 or 8. And everybody's got this beautiful wetlands to look at.
Kind of a win-win.
Yeah,
there
for everything, and we're as people who restored wetlands, we now get to sell the credits for those to builders who need to destroy some wetlands in order to complete their projects. They have to buy something in the general area that is that. So it's worked out very well for everyone.
Yeah, really interesting, but kind of a good feeling for you. Selling the family farm is not easy, but to know it's provided something new like that.
Yeah, I got the area, I got the house, the garage, where the barn was, where the cattle yard was, and the garden. And then I can go down to the pasture land anytime I want, you know, so it's kind of the heart of the place is there, and almost none of the work. So.
But that's not the case with Parish Life, of course. And if you find out how to do that, let me know.
Like I tell people,
it's called retirement.
I used to work for a living, you know, but life in the parish can be busy, but I try to use the word rich. that it's a rich life. And so there's so much that is good about it, and the things that drive us nuts, whether it's customer complaints, personnel issues, or budget, we'd have that if we'd be some middle manager in some other business. So we get all these good things.
Right, and I totally agree. It is a rich life, and we get rich doing it, but maybe our bank accounts don't reflect it, but it's a different kind of rich.
But it's not bad, folks. It's not bad.
Yeah, we are not starving. We're doing quite well. You know, it's just, and with that, you know, what do you find most fascinating about Parish Life? What do you say?
Parish Life, they ought to make a TV series about it. You know, like 2/3 drama, 1/3 comedy. And because
2/3 comedy, man.
Yeah, sometimes, yeah. There's a lot of fun things happen with it. You know, you work with generally very good people, and you are, you get to be on the front lines. The best definition I ever heard was being a priest gives you a front row seat of the Holy Spirit working in the lives of other people. And that's, it lets you be creative. You know, in COVID, we've had to be incredibly creative with how we did things. We're creative with our writing, and our homilies, and so there are a lot of ways we could use all sorts of talents, and you know, and there are all sorts of things you have to learn about. You know, I know more about playground equipment than I ever thought I would need to, or about rooftop units, or about air conditioning systems, or so many different things.
Yeah, you're a hands-on pastor, Stan, and I've always admired that about you. Plus, you know, people guy and people are fascinating, and they're incredibly inspiring, you know, and resilient. It's, you know, as we accompany people in good times and the really hard times, the trials that people go through. So that is a rich work we're involved in. I'm grateful for it too. But you know, can't be all work. We need some outlets, some playtime, we call it. And my experience is Padres have sometimes some well-developed hobbies that are interesting because they're across the board so different. And tell us about where you're going next.
Yeah.
What is it, next week?
Yes, I always had a love for the history of the game of baseball. Wasn't particularly good at it or anything. And about 20 years ago, I got the opportunity out of the blue to go to the Twins fantasy camp. The Minnesota Twins put on a fantasy camp where former pros coach you and that sort of thing. And it has become something that I've gotten to do many times. And so this week I'll be leaving to go down to camp. It'll be my 14th time there. I play outfield because I'm not good enough to play infield. I'm left-handed, and the only few places I can get to, and often the first baseman, we got to put somebody who has pulled a muscle in there. So
that could be out the team.
Yeah, and but you know, it's just to get to be able to sit around and talk about baseball with people, and what I found is it's such a vacation in that it's so different than what I would normally do. I remember the first time I was there suddenly realizing the only thing I was thinking about was the next pitch. I wasn't thinking about 6 different things at the same time. And you know, so what a privilege it is to be there. And you know, to get to know people like Tony Oliva and Kent Herbeck and Tim Laudner and Bert Blylev, and you know, people that will actually even respond to emails or texts or that sort of thing. So
wow. So a typical day at camp. Baseball camp.
Yeah, show up at the clubhouse around 8 o'clock. You have a game at 9:30, so you have a little. Usually somebody's throwing batting practice or whatever. You try to get a little bit of stretching or batting practice in first. There's a game at 9:30, and another game in the afternoon, lunch in between. And then in the evening, about half the time, there's some banquet of some sort. It might be Kangaroo Court, it might be Welcome Banquet, it would be the night, you know, on Sunday we have Saturday we arrive, get to know the rookies that are there. Sunday is a clinic, you know, we learn about everything from base running,
Mhm.
fielding to outfield shane balls, live batting, whatever. And maybe some pitching or catching of the people that are in that. That night we are drafted onto a team, and that's announced at the dinner that night. Monday night we would take our coach out to dinner so we get to know the teammates well. Tuesday night is kangaroo court. Wednesday we just had one game, so we have 5 games those first 3 days, and then so we get to heal a little bit and maybe get to spend some time with parishioners who live down there or whatever it is. And then another doubleheader on Thursday. Then the teams are put in a couple different divisions, and typically you're in a playoff game on Friday. And if you win that, you're in a championship game on Saturday. And that game would be held at Hammond Stadium. All this takes place where spring training takes place. And sometimes you get a glimpse of the guys who are currently on the team, but this year with the lockout, none of them will be allowed to be around there. So, yeah, it's a fun time. You know, couple different nights with they raise money for a children's hospital, so there's some auctions as well, and awards given out to the final Saturday night, and then everybody leaves Sunday morning.
Wow.
I'll be coming back late Saturday night so I can have Mass on Sunday.
Back to work.
Yeah.
And with your new skills developed down at baseball camp, you can come sliding into home plate and the sacristy safe, ready to go.
More like limping down the aisle.
Wow. Well, that's great. That's a busy week, kind of like a full week, like the Parish.
Yeah, the time fills up. A lot of just fun and talking, and you know, I play on a summer league team with a lot of these guys, an over 50 league, and that's so I get to stay in touch with some of them throughout the year.
It's all about the relationships.
Yeah, I'm the chaplain. Yeah, I'm the chaplain there. I've got a couple masses, and I've heard confessions. I've done a wedding from the people down there. I've done a few funerals for people. So,
almost like another parish.
Yeah, but you know, when you only have to deal with 120 people, that's pretty easy. So,
piece of cake.
And they're all brought together with a focus. If we could be church like that campus camp, with people, with the leadership that gets developed, with the ideas that come forth, with the way they do hospitality, with their encouragement for one another, their care for one another, we'd be great parishes.
Is there anything you've learned from fantasy baseball camp that you can apply in the parish?
Well, just that imagery of if we could really do the hospitality like they do it, where people are welcomed and encouraged, and people who have been there a number of times come up with new ideas to move things forward. The staff, the pros, make a real effort to not just to get to know the ones who are on their team, but everybody in the whole camp. And they'll know you from year to year, or several years gone. They'll know where to place you, where to defend against you.
They've scouted you.
Oh, they have scouted you, and they know what to do.
That's amazing. Well, Stan, we're going to wrap it up with a question from we call our Magic Orange Hat. Totally random. I think I don't know what that question is. I think it's going to be an okay question.
Say something about keeping a promise. That's I think a good definition of commitment. To say you're going to do something, try to follow through with it. Be humble enough to not make the promise if you can't do that.
Well, Stan, I'm glad you made the commitment to the work you're in, called a priesthood, and yet taking time for yourself and discovering something that's very much like the ministry you do back in the parish, the camp.
Yeah, I also love to travel. I've led a number of groups and one with you, and so it's a way that we can afford to travel.
Yep.
to exotic places.
The Holy Land.
Yes, yeah, I've been there 9 times.
Wow,
And
beautiful.
to Europe a number of times as well.
Beautiful. But
So hoping that all this COVID stuff subsides to the point where I feel confident of keeping a promise, that we will go to this place rather than having to cancel it at some point.
yeah. And all that being said, we make our promises and some things are out of our control and then God comes up with another plan. But
Yeah, God always has a backup plan.
backup.
There's always a backup plan.
Absolutely. So thanks, Dan. I really appreciate you taking the time in your busy schedule and great having you. And folks, thanks for tuning in. And you notice that Carlo's taking a shine to Father Stan over me, but I don't take that personally. Hey, stay warm, be well. Hope to see you next week. Take care.